Because every religion is a way to arrive at God.
This is not good. This is not good at all and spells major trouble.
Did you know that they've already built the one world religion temple?
If you know and understand history, I would say now would be a really good time to be scared, / absolutely terrified.
There is a freight train coming for the woke.
Yet again, another extreme radical swing, and based on the evidence of this and what history tells, I don't know that human beings are going to make it.
Welcome to the Mind, Body, and Soul podcast. The show that not only dives deep into real-world issues, but also brings it closer to home, helping you master the internal world of your mind and the external world of your home and environment. This is a show you can't afford to miss. So, welcome one, welcome all to Mind, Body, and Soul with your host, Scottish artist, author, and mental health mentor, John Morris.
Okay, folks, well, it is Thursday afternoon, it is 4:30 Greenwich Mean Time, and we are here for the Mind, Body, and Soul podcast with your local host, John Morris, and welcome to our brand new branded Mind, Body, and Soul podcast, Mind, Body, and Soul show. How exciting is this? New background, new intro, new everything. And as of next week, we're actually going to have new cameras in the studio as well, so this is the last time that we're going to be doing it in this format, but I hope you really, really like and enjoy what you're getting to see right now, and it is a joy and a blessing to be here with you today. How are you all doing, first and foremost? I know it seems to me every single week that it seems to get harder and harder to stay alive. Genuinely. I mean, Katie and I, my wife and I, for those of you that don't know, we sat down the other day and we literally sat there and we looked at what's happening in the United States, what's happening in Canada, what's happening here in the United Kingdom, what's happening in Israel, Palestine, what's happening in the Ukraine. And I literally had to get up and walk out the room because I literally was just like, oh my goodness, this is absolute chaos. This is absolute chaos. And obviously, we're going to be talking about some of this in the show today, as we always do. Now, to let you know that we've got a slightly new format for the show. We've actually got a format for the show, which is something very unusual for us. And the first part of the format is we're going to do reaction videos. We're going to be talking about real-world events, things that are really happening in our world as we speak live of 2024. Then in the second part of the show, we are going to be talking about homes. Now, you might think, John, what on earth are you talking about with homes? You don't do homes. Well, here's the thing. I'm also a professional artist, for those of you that don't know, and I also dab a little bit interior design. And I know, as a mental health expert, if you're going to call me that, that if you bring certain aspects and certain things into your home, you're going to create a home that you love, a home that you thrive in, a home that you just can't wait to get home. It's what they call the Englishman's home in his castle, because he enjoys being there. If you equally put an environment together that is, well, as you're going to see, full of debris, full of busyness, full of clutter, full of dust, you're going to find an environment that you don't like to live in. And as one of our viewers had put on, they really hate going home to their house. And you're going to see why later on. Further than that, in the, I suppose, the third part of the show, we're actually going to be going to a live audience that's going to be asking questions all about how we can help with their teen lives, teenagers' lives for teen life coaching. Also, how we can help with their mental health, physical health, emotional health, spiritual health, or what are the problems that they're looking at. Apparently, it's really popular in other shows, so we're going to give it a try with this one. So we're going to see what happens in that part of the show. Nobody may turn up. It may be a complete disaster. But equally, it could be a tremendous amount of fun one way or the other. So that's kind of the format that we've got going forward with the Mind, Body, and Soul podcast. By the way, did you like the logo that was there? It was really beautiful, wasn't it? The blue, the red, the yellow fits very, very well for all the stuff that we've got going on. So welcome to the show. Now that I've got all that out of the way, we're having a blast. We're having a great show, despite a lot of the craziness that's happening in the world. And I have a number of different thoughts. Now, my wife always reminds me, we shouldn't be surprised about what happens, what's going on in our world, because as the Bible tells us, as prophecy tells us, as many of the scriptures and many of the religious texts around the world tells us, there's going to be chaos, there's going to be times of war, there's going to be famine, there's going to be this. But what I can't get my head around is this. and this upset me. This upset me greatly. Is you see what's happening in Palestine, and you see what's happening in the Ukraine, you see what's happening in Israel, and have we not learned? And I hoped we'd learn after World War II that if somebody just comes into your land and invades you and basically kicks you out of your country and everything else, is going to shoot you, is going to kill you, this is just absolute chaos for everybody. This is not a good thing at all. And yet that's what's happening in Palestine. That's what's happening right now with Israel. And I understand from Israel's point of view why they're doing what they're doing. I understand from Palestine's point of view to a degree why they did what they did. Israel is just responding, but it's the severity, I think, of the response and the brutality of the response that's got a lot of people now really traumatized, really concerned, really worried. I don't know about you, but I can't keep up with all the issues that's going on in the world. I physically can't. Like I say, you've got the woke culture that's going on. We're going to be talking about that in the hour. You've got the wars that are going on, and it just gets to the point where you're like, oh my word, this is absolutely crazy. This is absolutely crazy. What makes it even more crazy is something allegedly that the Pope said very, very recently. We're going to play you a clip momentarily, but the reason I say allegedly is because we don't actually know anymore what's true and what isn't. Because at the end of the day, with AI running rampant and all the crazy things that are happening there with voice control and voiceovers and all the other stuff, we literally just don't know what's true and what isn't. But if this is true, if this is what the Pope has said, then there's major trouble. Watch this and we'll see why in a moment.
Welcome to the Mind, Body, and Soul podcast.
Because every religion is a way to arrive at God. Sort of a comparison, an example would be they're sort of like different languages in order to arrive at God.
Ma Dio è Dio per tutti.
But God is God for all.
So there's a number of different thoughts there. Now, I know it's a very, very short clip, so if you need to hear it again, it was basically God is God for all. One world religion is the way to arrive at God. There is many things to say about that. Many things that are concerning, if that's true of what the Pope has said. And one of the most concerning things, so you look at it from the point of view, okay, John, what's really concerned about it? Okay, so you have Muslims who do not agree with Christians. You have Hindus that do not agree with Christians. You've got Hindus that don't agree with Muslims. You've got every single religion on the face of the planet does not agree with each other. What we're looking at now is an opportunity to unite everybody together. So they'll take all the key aspects and elements out of every religious text, and you look at them. I made a note to myself of some of them, and so as I wouldn't forget. And what we're looking at here is, okay, so again, do to others as you would have them do unto you. You've got the moral and ethical guidelines, the search for meaning, the community and belonging, the sacred. Okay, so far people are like, yep, I'm in. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. But the interesting question then is, because who's the figurehead? Oh, well, it's God. But you can also worship Jesus, Muhammad, Allah, Krishna, Buddha. You can worship whoever you want. And it's going to be, literally amalgamation of that. The whole thing of life after death, rituals and worship, that's really what they're looking for. But here's where they differ, okay? And it's really important to be aware of where they differ. The concept of God, first and foremost. Now, there are certain parts in other religious texts that call for all extermination of Christians, of any extermination for anyone that doesn't believe what you believe. There's also partial things in the Bible about that. The sacred text. Okay, so what does that mean then? Okay, so we're going to say, okay, Jesus rose from the dead, but not really, because that would violate what some Catholics believe, and certainly Orthodoxy and Muhammad and the Quran. Well, that violates it. So we can't have Jesus rising from the dead. Jesus died and stayed dead, and it gets really confusing. Beliefs about the afterlife, they're all different. Of course, just do Buddhism and Christianity. Well, Christianity, you're going off. You're going to soar into the kingdom of heaven in the golden streets and the palace made of, ivory, bronze, and whatever else you've got. In Buddhist text, of course, you've got, enlightenment. You've got reincarnation. In other texts, you've got, nirvana. religious practices, ethics, morals, view of humanity, historical and cultural texts. It is a really concerning thing if the Pope has said that essentially all roads lead to God. Now, we shouldn't be surprised about this. Bible talks about this a lot. If you're a Christian, if you're a believer, if you're walking, all that kind of stuff. And there was different things that it brought up, like Revelation 13, when it talks about the beast and exercises now authority over other tribes. Revelation, where it talks about the great prostitute as ascended, as associated with the nations and their rulers, unifying religious systems. But the one that really caught my attention was when Jesus is praying for unity among believers, which some have interpreted as a united faith, though it emphasizes unity among Christians, believers, rather than a single global religion. Why am I making such a big deal about this? Why am I making such a big fuss about this? Well, we're going to see another clip momentarily, but before we do, I want to focus your mind on if they're going to unite one world religion, then what else are they going to unite? Since I traveled to the United States in 2012, I was already seeing signs for a one world government. Now, why is that dangerous? Well, that's dangerous because if you have one thing happening in Canada, such as the woke culture, such as this crazy, crazy stuff going on with drag queens going into schools and all sorts of other things going on, teaching mass masturbation to young children. In my world, that's essentially called grooming and pedophilia, but you call it what you want. What does that mean then for the rest of the world? Does that mean that drag queens can safely go into schools? Does that mean that that you can teach mass masturbation to a group of young children? Does that mean then that becomes acceptable to do whatever you want to whoever you want? Where do you draw the line? And that doesn't happen just for people in the West. For Christian believing countries, that means people in Dubai, people in the Congo, people in Haiti, people in Russia. You're all going to be forced to believe the same thing. Where does that end? It is massively concerning. If that is the truth, and if that is the world's truth, because that is not the truth. But I'm not surprised of this happening. What's more scary is the fact that we're living through this. We're experiencing this. We are seeing this with our own eyes play out right before us. We never thought it possible that we would be living in a world where essentially what's going on in schools right now is actually happening. And people are saying, oh, yeah, that's fine. That's wonderful. Let's go to Canada. Hallelujah. Woo. I'm sorry, but I try to strive for balance as much as possible. But equally, I think it's vitally important to know the difference between right and wrong. And when you've got drag queens going into schools in Canada and teachers saying, oh, that's fine, it's wonderful, and you're teaching these ethics and these morals that are quite clearly unethical and immoral, then there is something massively wrong about that. But what's more concerning is the speed and the rapidity that all of this is taking place with. Check out this clip, and you'll see exactly what I mean.
The Bible prophesied a one-world religion. Did you know that they've already built the one-world religion temple in Abu Dhabi? Take the time this week to Google it. And you will find that they have already built the temples for the one-world religion. And there is a doctrinal blending of Islam, Judaism, and Christianity. And leaders of those three world religions, the three largest religions in the world, leaders of those religions have all been to Abu Dhabi. They were all present at its dedication. And they all gave speeches to how glorious it will be. A moment in human history unprecedented when faiths from around the world can come together in perfect religious harmony. All prophesied by the Holy Bible that I hold in my hand.
Again, you hear and you see these things, and I actually had to say to Katie yesterday, I was like, we need to stop watching so many things on Instagram and YouTube, because genuinely, I sat there thinking, how on earth are we to survive this craziness that's going on. And I actually got to the point, folks, where I sat there, I put myself in the position of the people in Israel or the people in Palestine. And I thought to myself, if I needed to leave right now, if I need to go right now, could I? But here's the thing. I realized I wouldn't last very long. That's why this is so concerning, because I realized I wouldn't last very long. Why? Because I got colitis. If I can't get medication, I either have to find a cure for colitis very, very quickly, or I ain't going to make it. My wife lives in chronic pain. My family would not survive. And then it's when you start learn about this, it's like, have you got the food to survive? Have you got the place to go to survive? And this is when it becomes very, very, very scary. And then we sat there last night, and I don't want to get into a complete downer and everything. We're going to take care of the lighting in a moment. Sorry, folks, there's light just blasting through that's catching off my shirt. But I got to a moment last night, and there's an old proverb that really took hold with me. And it said something along like this, that if there is a snake or a lion above you, and you're hanging off a cliff, and you're in certain death, look for the strawberry hanging off the branch. And essentially what that means, to put it in modern terms, last night, we got to watch the final episode of the Grand Tour. Jeremy Clarkson, Richard Hammond, James May, what was known as Top Gear. And I've followed these gentlemen for a long, long time, and I've had so much fun watching them and really enjoyed being a part of their journey. And I thought, you know what? That's maybe the strawberry. Maybe that's a strawberry. Maybe it's not necessarily a case of trying to run and flee from all the insanity that's happening, but to look for the beauty in what's going on. Because perhaps the insanity is inevitable. Perhaps it is all inevitable. And as Wayne Dyer had said, the suffering is all divine, but so too is my desire to bring it to an end. And that really caught my attention. It really caught my focus. We're going to take some comments in a moment, folks. We invite you to bring in your comments, and we're going to look at what's going on. So yes, a lot of people didn't know that there was already a temple. I didn't know there was already a temple. And this is why I do rely on people keeping me well informed, because there is a lot of crazy stuff that's going on and happening right now, a lot of concerning stuff that's going on and happening right now. And, it's frightening. It's frightening. And I think back to people in the Second World War. I think back to the people in the Napoleonic invasions. I think back to the people, 1066, that came over here, and the Normandy conquest, no, that's possibly wrong. Wrong people. William the Conqueror, that's what I'm trying to think of. And when he came over here and literally was just like, you know what, I'm just going to take over. And that's what he did. That's what he did. And basically, he gave the people of Britain, sort of a free pardon. It's like, anybody who wants to leave can leave, but the rest of you are all going to be subject to my will. It really is concerning for sure. And now I understand why people like Robert Kiyosaki and several other unmentionables have been buying and building bunkers and places. It really has hit home with me this past week. The wars, the fires, the carpet bombing. Sorry, I'm being a real downer today, aren't I? But I think it's really important to talk about this, because as much as it sucks to talk about it, it sucks even more for the people that are in the midst of this. On the flip side of that, just reading this comment, it reminds me how you look at the people of the past who survived hard places like the miners in the San Juan Mountains and compare it to the survival skills we now have. I think that's part of it. Epic Wolf 3. Because when you look at the amount of division that's gone on, and I think there's probably more division now than ever before. I may be wrong about that. Tell me if I am. But when you look at the woke culture, the transgender, the LGBTQI, whether you're white or black, Black Lives Matter, liberal, Democrat, Trump, Harris, Starmer, Sunak, all of the different things that are separating us and dividing us. Plus, more people are working from comfort in homes more and more than ever before. I don't think we're necessarily equipped with the same skills that we had before. You know, you read in the Bible where literally, you know, David was able to slay Goliath with a rock. You read in the Bible where, you know, Joshua, you know, walked around and brought the temple and the walls of Jericho down to the ground. I don't know that we're equipped that same way now. But I do know God is God and God hasn't changed. You know, the same power that Jesus had when he was literally delivering people is the same power that was bequeathed to believers. I know that. But one of the things that I find, I think, more concerning right now, and people have been talking to me about this all week, expecting some great prophetical reply. I didn't have one. I did have a reply, and as you'll see in this video, the balance of power is once again shifting to the right. But I don't think it's necessarily going to be the great redemption and revival that we thought it was. You check out this. I'm going to go and sort out the light, and when you come back, I should have a visible collar. See you in a moment.
Proverbs chapter 26 says, "Do not answer the foolish arguments of fools, or you'll become foolish as they are." We know you go all around the country debating college students. They won't listen. They don't care about biology and science. What they say is it's a social construct. And so how do you reason with a fool when they don't care about the science? They just care about the social construct, and that's what's important to them.
That's why I say there are zero genders. Because in some sense, I do agree they've created a social construct that's completely irrelevant. Now, if we all of a sudden want people to fill out on their citizenship papers, you know, on a passport application, you know, how do you like, what food preferences you have, which is as important to me as your gender, because gender means nothing to me. It basically tells me your horoscope. Then fine. But I will say this. There are other verses that will say that you must speak the truth in all places. Ephesians 5:2, you must reveal the deeds of darkness. You must expose them. And I feel that's my life's calling. One of my life's calling is to go to the darkest places that humanity has, college campuses, and to fight for righteousness and goodness. And I'll prove it to you by what Christ told us. What Jesus told us is to be salt and light. Now we hear that, but we don't think deeply about what it means. What does salt and light have in common? They change the environment that they come in contact with. Light brightens up a dark place, and salt will make something saltier. College campuses are very dark places. In some ways, I'm almost like a cultural missionary. Now, you are right about the radicals, but I'm going to give you a little bit of hope. Gen Z boys are the most conservative generation of boys since 1975. And I see these young boys, the most based, the most outspoken activists that I've ever come across are 16, 17, 18-year-old young men. And I'm going to tell you why. They are looking for anything that says it's okay to be a man.
Come on.
Anything. Our culture is so feminine. It's toxically feminine, honestly. That we are creating, and by the way, the women are the ones that agree the most when I say it. It's so funny, because they know that young boys are going to lead, I think, one of the most fun, exciting, rebellious counter-revolutions in American history against all of this woke nonsense. And you see it with Joe Rogan's podcast, with the ascendance of Jordan Peterson, of Peter Attia, Andrew Tate, who's a mixed bag, but, you know, he says some good things. But young boys are like, finally, somebody is telling me that having a high testosterone rate and not dressing like a metrosexual and actually lifting weights and embracing this idea of going on an adventure is a healthy and a good thing. So there's some hope. And I'll tell you another piece of hope. This happened at University of New Mexico, despite all the nonsense they threw at us. Every single campus tour I have done in the last 12 months, except one, which was intentionally derailed by the administration at UC Santa Davis. That's the only one. we could not find rooms big enough to fit all the students that wanted to attend our on-campus events. Every single one. We have waiting lists of students that want to come. So yes, the radicals, but there is this amazing movable middle. And they see the disaster of wokeism. I am not very optimistic politically right now. I'm kind of in the middle. I'm unbelievably optimistic culturally. There is a freight train coming for the woke. There is something, I'm telling you, I see it. It's happening on social media. It's happening on TikTok. It's happening on Instagram. These people have no arguments. They can't defend themselves. And do not be shocked. This is why Turning Point USA, in my opinion, is the most important organization in America. Is that if we can make this happen in 2 or 3 years and Gen Z becomes conservative, every one of their models is wrong. They have this will get so out of control. So there is hope, everybody. The reinforcements are coming. And so I'm going to keep on talking to the fools.
So there's a lot that I thoroughly agree with that. I think it's, I think it's fantastic that finally you've got young men that are standing up and turn around and say, no, actually, we don't agree with this. We want to know how to be men. You're more people than ever turning back to Jesus. That's great. Hallelujah. You've more people. But I think what's really concerning for me, and I'm still sort of wrestling around with this in my mind, and I find it upsetting in many ways. And this is where you'll see me put the proof into pudding. When he said, I forget the exact phraseology he used, but basically he said about being conservative. So woke is liberal and conservative is, well, anti-woke. I think the thing that is really upsetting and worrying to me is the fact that it's almost like the right and Charlie Kirk's movement. And I'm just going by this video alone. Again, it was presented to me. I know very little about Charlie Kirk. So I've got to speak on what I see, but I think the concern would be that the woke culture, the origin of the woke culture, the foundations of what it actually was meant to be, which was about love and respect and equality and kindness and care, and so much that started in the Black community, that has then spread, obviously, and all these other things. I think the concerning thing is that it's just blown out of the water, and we forget there are people there who, if they're sitting there saying, well, I'm a man, and they're actually a woman, that it's really concerning for them that they're not going to get the help that they need. They're not going to get the nurture that they need. They're going to be fired out the water, that there's going to be horrible things that happen. And I literally think this decision as well with Harris and Trump, whoever wins this political election, is going to be a massive turning point. And many people that I speak to across the United States, in fact, across the world, I'm really terrified of to what the result may be, because they're looking at it like, oh my goodness, this is literally the biggest turning point that we've ever encountered, whether woke gets in or whether, whether conservatism gets in. And I don't know. I mean, the phraseology didn't sit well with me at the end when he was saying, there's a storm coming, we're going to blast them out the water, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. It's, and I know it's like you're rallying the troops. You want people to be excited. You want men to stand up. You want men to be men. You want men to be who they can be. You want women to be who they can be and who they are. You want people to be who they are and to stop trying to change, what they were born and who they were born and all the other sorts of stuff. And you can tell I'm wrestling around with this in my own mind. But I think the phraseology is the most important thing that's going on here, because if you're going to create this world of, we want to have some tolerance, we want to have care, we want to have love, we want to have peace and everything else. But at the same point, you're going to say, we're going to blow this woke nonsense out of the water. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. I'm going to debate you. I'm going to tell you you're wrong. I'm going to destroy you. They have no argument. They have no nothing. It's like, wow. These people who have literally no basis for what they're fighting for, and yet they're still willing to die and still willing to fight and still willing to go forward because they know something's not right, but they They don't know what it is, and they're trying to fathom that out. They're trying to figure that out. That's why I try and sit firmly in the middle. But the problem is, then that goes into the culture of one world religion and one world, government. I sit there by myself. Don't join me. Don't join a balancist. Don't come near me. And I know we're talking tongue in cheek about this, but I found it upsetting. I found it, I think, more upsetting than I did encouraging. Not because I'm all for the left and I want absolute, but I've got friends of mine who are going through the transgender process, who I've worked with, have clients of mine who I've worked with from the time that they were very young to where they are now. And I just don't know. It just doesn't sit well with me at all. The freezing of it and the fact, I think it's the heart. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe we need to go to commercial break, folks. But something about it didn't sit well with me. What do you think about what Charlie Kirk had to say with regards to this, to blowing the woke culture out of the water and everything else it had to say? Stick it in the comments, folks. We are going to go to commercial, and when we come back, we'll be moving on. Have you ever wanted to celebrate your fur baby in the best way possible? Something that you can treasure, something that captures the heart and soul of your furry friend? Well, look no further. With paintourpet.com, you have the opportunity to commission an amazing painting from internationally renowned artist John Morris. John has worked with literally hundreds and hundreds of clients from around the world. John's paintings not only have the ability to capture the heart and soul of each and every subject that he paints, but also has the power to evoke an emotional response from all who see his work. And if this sounds like the very thing you've been searching for to celebrate your fur baby in the most amazing way possible, then don't delay. Head on over to paintourpet.com today for a free, no obligation quote and to order your very, very own custom-made, hand-painted masterpiece. That's paintourpet.com. We look forward to hearing from you today. And we absolutely do look forward to hearing from you today. In fact, we've got an updated website, so head to thejohnmorris.co.uk. That's thejohnmorris.co.uk. Either way will get to me, but you get a more direct response if you head to the website I just mentioned. So talking about that, we're now moving on to a new section of our show. We're just going to jump to any comments about the previous topics and things. Let's have a look before we move on. I think conservatives partially are going hard because they've played so nice for a long time without the other side not really meeting in the middle, and they're pushing harder. I absolutely get that. And I understand from both points of view. But what I also understand is when you've got two butting heads, you've got two ramrods that are there. I think in some ways, with the woke culture that, being what it is and still very new and very, want this fancy lifestyle kind of thing and trying to figure out who they are. I think it's the conservatives' responsibility to, I think it's their responsibility to be the mature ones, quite honestly, and to look and say, right, what are they actually looking for? And maybe they can't because this is what happens with religion. This is what happens with opposing views. It's like, it's my way. And that's all you're going to do. You're going to constantly come. You're going to butt heads. That's all you're going to do. The conversations needs to happen because for so long people have lived, underground basically, that are gay, that are, going through these drag queen things. These are I'm not going to say the gay, but certainly the drag queen, the transgender. It's very rare to have genuine gender dysphoria. And when you're looking at this, it's like, oh dear, this is it's messy. It's messy for sure. This is a great example of this. They interview kids and liberal kids, and they said they wouldn't be able to hang out with those with known conservative family, but conservative kids. Again, exactly my point. Exactly my point is literally, I'm looking now at what is the bigger picture here, and it seems to me that a massive divide has gone on, either by accident or by deliberate, by the powers that be. And it is really concerning when you've got such a divide between children, that turn around and say, well, I can't be that person's friend because, they don't agree with me and they don't, whatever. It's, again, hate isn't born, hate's taught. And Yeah, I think it's interesting. I do agree the language you used was more fighting. Didn't have to again. Yeah, and I completely agree. Again, flipping on the other side, I think the conservatives have gotten so sick and tired of this woke stuff that's going on, this woke development, this woke ideology, that they're literally looking at it now and saying, "No, we're going to come out all guns blazing. We're going to come out all guns, fighting." It's. Yeah, there's a lot that we can say on that, folks, but unfortunately, time will not allow it. So if you do have comments, of course, do stick them in the comments bar. We may get to them at the end of the show, but we've got to keep pressing on because as we move on, we have a new, how should we call this? A new segment. It's basically all about the homes and the house, because your home is literally the second place after dealing with your internal world that you need to look at if you are struggling with your mental health. And as you're going to see momentarily, and by this banner, I hate my home and I don't know why, it's just all out of control. You're going to see why this person really doesn't like this. Now, we went to social media actually to bring up some of these pictures, and when you see why, you see the people's homes, you're going to understand why they really dislike them. Because if your home is full of clutter, if your home is full of mess and dust and dirt, and it's just out of control, then it's a prime example as to why your life is feeling out of control, because people will go to work to avoid dealing with the home issue, and your home is offering a reflection of you. So let's take a look, shall we, at some of these homes and some suggestions of what we can do to really sort of clear things up a little bit. Our lighting's all over the place, folks. As I say, this is a brand new set, brand new studio, so we're still ironing some things out. We haven't got all the stuff here yet, but we are doing our best. So just bear with us. Grin and smile, grin and smile. So the first room that you can see, if is the top left-hand corner, and the reason being across that back wall. So if you've just got stuff littered all over your dining room and a small enclosed room where it's not getting much air, not getting much light, it is a prime breeding ground for mold, and a prime prime breeding ground for spores and mold spores, and ultimately for other unwelcomed things going on in there for sure. It is very, very difficult to really enjoy your home. Sorry, that's jumping forward. When your dining room's like this. Now, the first thing that I would suggest is, and people say, well, how on earth do people get like this? And it all starts little by little. How do people start an addiction? It all starts little by little, and it builds up and it mounts up until before you know it, it's an uncontrollable nightmare. And that's what's happened here. I had a dear friend of mine in the United States as well, who I went to stay with for a bit, and the family place was very much like this. So what I would say is, if you cannot face this, and this is what often happens, people always say to me, I want to change my home, I want to change my life, but I just can't face it. I would start by suggesting do 10 minutes in there. And I would start by looking at getting rid of maybe what you need to do is to actually bring in a friend, bring in family, because you might not be able to do this by yourself. There is a certain emotional attachment that people have when their life has become a bit chaotic, a little bit, out there, a little bit mad, and it's a comfort thing. And people oftentimes look around and they're like, yeah, it might be trashy, it might be really, really busy, but at least it's my trash, at least it's my busy. It's like, I get that. But you're developing an inhospitable living environment and an unsafe living environment for you to live in. So you need to start somewhere, and again, 10 minutes, that's what I would say. 5, 3, break it down to its basic element if you need to, 3 minutes, and just start moving, tidying, cleaning. What I suggest that you do that you have to throw away, okay? Because at the end of the day, all you're going to do is... You really are just. So I was just seeing comments on the corner of my eye there. but you really got to start somewhere. And if you need support with that, we're here to help, but hopefully it'll be something that you do as a family more and more. Okay, it weirdly cuts out talking when I show the full photo without my own screen showing. Didn't get why you first suggest. Oh, okay, sorry. So for those apparently that it was cutting out, what I would start with is start by 10 minutes of cleaning and getting rid of. Okay, you don't want to move from one room to another because that is not going to help you in the long term. So the first thing is you may need to look at getting some help, but if you feel up to doing this, get a black bag, get your bin, and just start putting stuff in there. Now, people will see they've got an emotional attachment. They've got, all of these things that they just can't throw away. They can't be parted from and everything else. You don't own anything. Okay, let me put this out there. And I know this is not what people want to hear, but you really don't own anything. We just experience everything. Okay, you can't take any of it with you. So the best thing sometimes you can do is learn how to detach. And when you learn how to detach from things, you actually become incredibly free. Okay, really incredibly free. But this looks like it would be a nice dining room, or was a nice dining room at one period in time for someone. It's just got a little bit out of control. And I get when it's a busy life, these things can happen. And talking about busy lives, we are going to jump to the next. There we go. Thank you very much. We are going to jump to the next slide, which is, I believe, children's bedrooms. Now, children's bedrooms do sometimes need that little bit of help in order to keep clean. Now, this is a room that, again, if it's cleared up, actually has an incredible amount of space, beautiful windows, beautiful lighting, but it's just gone a little bit messy, a little bit out of control. Now, what I would suggest doing, and you can do this as an activity between yourselves, and this is the real beauty, that you can really develop a great bond and relationship with your family, is let's have a cleaning day. Let's have, that little bit of, as we say, feng shui. And that's a comment that's just come in that caught my eye as well. So again, if your home is cluttered, if there are rooms that you go into in your home that make you feel absolutely miserable, it drains your energy. And if you've got to do this over and over and over and over again, it makes you absolutely miserable and you do not feel progressive, productive. You don't feel happy. You don't feel happy in your own home. So where do you go? You go to work to avoid actually being there. And that isn't a good thing either. Okay, to go to work to avoid. So avoidance techniques are not the way to do. But again, I would just start. Let's start 15 minutes. Okay, your child says, I don't want to do 15 minutes, Mom. Well, do 10 minutes then. Let's do 5 minutes. Okay, let's put some music on. Let's make some fun of it. And before you know, the entire room can be cleaned up. Now, what I would suggest here over in that little corner as well where all the clothes are, is if those are dirty clothes, I would look at, again, getting a hamper. And I would look at taking some control over your children. So again, children don't do what they're told. They do what they see. And they do what they experience. And you hear this over and over and again from parents, is literally they won't do what they've been told. But if they see you exercising, they'll exercise. If they see you reading, they'll want to read. If they say, again, monkey see, monkey do. It's that whole kind of mindset. So it's really, really important that you foster a really good development with your children. Part of the problem is now, and again, looking at it in its simplest form, parents are so busy that they don't take time, they don't make time to spend with their children in really productive ways. So things go by the wayside. They end up, again, with children who swear. I was dealing with a client this past week who children will not do the dishes, will not take the shoes off, will not make the beds. The manners are absolutely terrible. I said, well, how old are they? They said 19 and 23. And I said, right, how long has this been going on? Oh, 6 years. I'm like, right, what have you done to try and deal with this? Parents don't like when you bring it closer to home and you say, well, actually, maybe it's you that could be the problem here. Maybe it's you that's allowed this behavior. And people don't like that. People don't like to look in the mirror. But here's the really great thing. When you realize that perhaps, you are part of the problem, you can actually then foster a great way to find a solution. And finding a solution is one of the best things that you can actually do. We're just about to go live on Facebook Let's see what we can do. Oh, there we go. We're starting live broadcast. There we go. So we're live now on Facebook for anybody who is watching, anyone that's helping or anyone that's seeking help with their mental health, anyone that's seeking help with families. We're talking about on YouTube right now the craziness of bedrooms and how bedrooms can really get out of control, but also how homes can get out of control if you let them. So if you've got comments, if you want to jump on the show, if you want to talk about your mental health, we are now available. We are live and live in color. Hopefully people are going to be joining us very, very soon. For anybody that's there, we will be firing on comments. If you want to join me live and do a phone in, you absolutely can. If you're on Facebook, you can literally click on and ask you a question. I'm not saying I'll be able to help. I'm not saying I'll be able to find an answer, but I'll certainly do my best. And hopefully we'll get somewhere. But it is the importance of being willing to take care of you and being willing to take care of your home that is literally going to make the difference between whether you get from where you are to where you want to be or not. You have to put in the work. And again, if you are looking at your life and saying, you know what, I really don't like being in my home. I really don't like this environment. I really don't like this. I really don't like that. Then the question always comes back to, what are you going to do to change it? What are you going to do to make a difference? My children won't listen to me. My children are being horrible. My children are being disrespectful. What are you going to do? What are you going to do to set the example? Again, children watch what you do. They watch how you respond. They don't just, go ahead and do it. They're learning the world and they're trying to understand the world from you. And that's why you've got to be really, really careful with obviously what you do, what you watch, what you allow in. It's really, really important to allow what's going on. And that's part of the reason why we're going to go to commercial in a moment, but that's really important why I'm getting notifications here that we need to go to commercial. Right. So 2 seconds. That's really important why I'm going to get this sentence out. That you really watch what your children are watching, what your children are listening to, who they're spending time with, and notice what your children are saying to you. Okay, I'm going to commercial. We'll be back after this. If you are interested in getting from where you are to where you want to be and struggling with your mental health, your physical health, emotional health, spiritual health, then we are here to help. At Mind, Body, and Soul Mental Health Mentoring, we have spaces available right now to help you on your journey. You don't have to go through these things alone. We know they're hard. We know they struggle, but we can put the smile back on your face. Come and visit us at thejohnmorris.co.uk, select the Mind, Body, and Soul option, and we'll be right here to help. Well, welcome back, folks. Welcome back. Oh dear, it's great fun doing these shows live, isn't it? We've covered a lot today, and this is the kind of show, and obviously the platform and the forum where we're able to do that. And I think what I find more concerning is the amount of people, as we've said, that are not only really struggling with all the things that are going on in the world, but also really struggling with how to make sense of it all. And there's a lot even out there that I just cannot make sense of anymore. The Pope saying that we want one world religion, the temples being built, all of these things. But again, we shouldn't be surprised because the Bible clearly talks about this. Again, if you want to go to Matthew 24, it's in the New Testament for those who are a little bit rusty on the biblical knowledge. And it's one that I always turn to when I see these things happening, because it's one that really, I think, just spells it out. And again, oh dear. Everything that has been in Scripture at one period of time or another has now been fulfilled. There are things that are being fulfilled all the time. It's really dark what's happening. The fact that many will come in my name claiming I'm the Messiah. They will deceive many. That's happening. You will hear of wars and threats of wars. That's happening. And then it says, but don't panic. Don't know about you. Don't know about you. But when I see stuff like this, it's like, ooh. But that's when you learn the inner ability to be able to experience and see the events happening, but not to partake of the emotion and stuff. But do not panic, for these things must take place, but the end won't follow immediately. Nation will go against nation and kingdom against kingdom. There'll be famines and earthquakes in part of the world, but this is only the birth pains and more to come. Then you'll be arrested, persecuted, and killed, and hated all of the world because you are my followers. And many will turn away and betray me, and they'll betray each other. And many false prophets will appear and deceive many. Sin will be rampant everywhere, for the love of many will grow cold. But the one unjust to the end will be saved. And the good news about the kingdom will be preached all throughout the earth. And when you start seeing this stuff playing out before your very eyes, and it says, again, the day is coming when you will see what Daniel the prophet spoke about, the sacrilegious object that causes desecration standing in the holy place. It's referring to Jerusalem. Then those in Judea must flee to the hills, and the person on the deck must not go down to the house to pack. Again, what we were talking about earlier on. I know I'm probably scaring some people. People are probably going to unsubscribe because of a lot of the stuff we're talking about. But again, I think it's really important that it is talked about, even if it's just to a small audience that are going to come on and going to go off and do whatever they're going to do. When we talked about surviving the earth, and that's really been the sort of the theme throughout today's show, is surviving the earth for 24 hours. We're talking about knowing how to survive the insanities of human beings. I think that's something that people really struggle getting their head around. It's like lions know what lions are doing, ostriches know what ostriches are doing, birds know what they're meant to do, but human beings are the only creatures. They say we're sentient beings, but we're the only creatures that literally will do so much harm and so much evil and so much malice to one another. And don't even give it really a second thought. I don't know. I don't know what the future holds, quite honestly. I really don't know what the future holds. It's concerning, I think, in many ways, and it's concerning for a lot of people that's going through and that's experiencing this. And as always, for as long as we can, we'll be here. We'll be talking about it on air. We'll be sharing with you our thoughts, our reveals and stuff like that. We may need to take a little bit of a break at some point soon, but yeah. I want to thank you all for watching. Apparently, people haven't got questions regarding mental health. Again, it's the first week, so we'll see what happens. But I want to thank you all for watching, and want to thank you for being a part of the Mind, Body, and Soul podcast. And if you do have questions regarding to your mental health and to the things that you are facing and struggling with, then do get in touch with us, either at thejohnmorris.co.uk or obviously on YouTube, Facebook, wherever you see this, and we're here to help. With that, take care, God bless, and we'll see you in the next video.
Welcome to the Mind, Body, and Soul podcast. The show that not only dives deep into real-world issues, but also brings it closer to home, helping you master the internal world of your mind and the external world of your home and environment. This is a show you can't afford to miss. So, welcome one, welcome all to Mind, Body, and Soul with your host, Scottish artist, author, and mental health mentor, John Morris.